Hey everybody, welcome to another show of Reviving Mississippi. We're about to go live on 90.1 FM. We got a great show lined up for you today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. All of our first-time viewers, go ahead and hit the heart button. Post where you're viewing from. All of our returning viewers, go ahead and hit the heart button. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to our different channels so you can be notified when we come on. And we're about to go live on 90.1 FM. Call in number 601-948-5950. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Revive Mississippi. I'm your host, DeKeither Stamps. We got a real good show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a good week this week. Y'all know I'm starting to trim up a little bit, trying to get myself together. I lost a couple pounds. I feel pretty good. Been paying attention to old Eric over at Herbal Blessings with the plant-based family. Y'all should try it out because y'all will be amazed at the results. I just followed directions on the bottle, got myself together. So I appreciate Brother Eric over at Herbal Blessings. As we start every show, we always say, let's remember those folks who are going through bereavement. And there are several good folks out there who are going through bereavement. And we got to make sure we take care of each other. We got to make sure that we spend time with each other. And then we just remember that everybody, we grew up grieving a certain way. We grew up grieving and, being together and spending time together and all that. And in today's society, it's hard to do that. It's hard because of social distancing, different people quarantining themselves, and all those kinds of things that make the grieving process and the hospitalization process so much different. So let's just remember those folks who are going through bereavement and make sure you reach out to them the weeks and the months afterwards so that we can all spend time together and all, take care of each other because we're all we got. And we got to make sure that we take care of each other in a healthy way. Also, let's remember our sponsors. We got some great sponsors on this show, starting out with Mr. Micheal Jordan from Micheal Jordan Transportation Service. You can go to www.mjstransportation1.com for your transportation needs. And our transportation issues in Mississippi and abroad, Mr. Jordan always takes care of those transportation needs. He always is there to help. And if you need employment, he's always looking for good folks. So you can go to www.mjstransportation1.com. Also, one of our sponsors is National Wildlife Federation. We had some representatives from the National Wildlife Federation in town just this past week. And
I think they call up for you.
Nah. But we had some representatives from the National Wildlife Federation that were in town just this past week. So I just want to make sure I thank Ms. Simone Lightfoot and the whole team who were here to discuss those things of very good importance. They've been discussing natural infrastructure, flooding, water, environmental justice issues. And in today's show, we're going to have a wonderful young lady calling in all the way from New York, from Mount Vernon, New York. We'll have Mayor Shawyn Patterson Howard. Let's see if we can bring Miss Howard up. How you doing today, Mayor?
How are you? Good to see you, Representative Stamps. How are you doing?
Good to see you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we have Mayor Shawyn Patterson Howard. She is an MVHS alumnus and esteemed graduate of Howard University School of Social Work, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and the Hunter College, where she earned a master's in public administration and urban and community development. Mayor Patterson has served as a trailblazer in the not-for-profit and government sectors for the past 25 years. So, Mayor, welcome to the show today. We appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule. And the National Wildlife Federation linked us up together because the discussion about infrastructure, natural infrastructure, flooding, and all that is a worldwide issue. And sometimes in our communities, we just identify them as it's just happening to us.
Mm-hmm.
And first, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to a deeper degree and then talk about your city a little bit.
Sure. As you've stated, I'm Mayor Patterson, Howard, or Shawyn. That's what I call myself, Shawyn. And I've been mayor here in the city of Mount Vernon since January of 2020.
Hmm.
So I am new to elected office. It's been interesting because most of my tenure has been during COVID, so it's been a little bit different. But I'm a lifelong Mount Vernonite, born and raised here. My family's lived in this community since the 1860s.
Wow.
Yeah, so we go back a long time. My grandfather was actually the first person of color to work in City Hall. He cleaned the building.
Wow.
And now I get to come in and lead the city. So it's really interesting. I love my community. We're 4 square miles, but we're about 105,000 people. So we're very densely populated. We
Mhm.
are right on the border of New York City, about 20-minute metro train ride down to Grand Central Station. So we're the suburbs, but we are very, very close to Manhattan. It gives us easy access. And prior to becoming mayor, as you stated, I was a social worker. I was a CEO for the YMCA. For many years, I've worked in social justice, employment, prison reentry, economic development, housing, just so many of the human services and economic development areas. And so I'm glad to be here. And we definitely are having some real challenges in our community as they are around the country around infrastructure and sewage and water and flooding. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm honored to be here. And additionally, I have the privilege, the great privilege of serving as the second vice president of the African American Mayors Association. And so this is how we were connected through AMA and through the National Wildlife Foundation. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's always good to hear stories like this. Your grandfather used to clean City Hall.
Yes.
Now his granddaughter is the mayor.
It's very humbling. And it's very sobering because when you get the opportunity to lead your community, the community that provided you with a foundation and the support, they were your tribe, your village, and you have an opportunity to lead them into better times. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of responsibility and it's a heavy lift, but I'm a big girl and I'm up for the job. I'm a fighter. So.
Well, they say that, folks don't get applauded in their home areas and when you're home, but that story just brings joy to me because my grandfather was a janitor at the elementary school.
Okay.
And my grandmother was a cafeteria worker. So I tell folks, never be ashamed of humble beginnings because you can definitely be laying the foundation and framework for a future that you don't even know was possible. But that foundation we lay today is critically important.
And I think it's just for 1 minute, I think it's important that people understand where we came from because we didn't grow up as electeds. We didn't grow up with silver spoons. My grandmother did days work. So that means she did people's laundry. She cleaned people's houses. My mother was a secretary. She didn't go to college. I was raised by a single mother and sat on the bed with her every other Friday night when she got paid and looked at her count out her check. This is for rent. This is for food. This is for transportation. This is for clothes. This is what we have extra, and always have to move that money from pile to pile to see it work. So, I grew up with things on layaway. I grew up in an apartment, and I was one of the first to go to college in my family. And I worked full time while I was in college. So, I've had to work hard for everything that I've gotten. No silver spoons over here. And so I tell people, yes, we wear pumps and pearls now, but on the weekends we wear hoodies and Timbs, and we're regular people getting it done for our community.
Tell us a little bit more about your city. What's the makeup of Mount Vernon, New York? What are the kind of demographics of it, so we can kind of get a little picture of your city?
So the demographics of Mount Vernon, we are 68% African American, about 18% Hispanic Latino, and the rest, European, Asian, Native American. So we are a heavy minority majority community. We like many communities, we have a north side and the south side of the tracks. The north side being a little wealthier than the south side being underinvested in, smaller homes. We are located in the wealthiest county in the country, which is Westchester County. But our average income here is about 40% lower than the rest of the county. So, you know, we have an average median income for a household of 60,000, and for some people that might sound like it's a lot, but 60,000 in New York doesn't go really far at all, and so it's challenging. It's challenging, but we're doing it. We, you know, 87% residential, so we're really much a community of homes and apartments. We don't have a big industrial corridor. Only about 13% of our land space is used for industrial uses. The best way I could describe us here is we're a town with a city-sized population. 4 square miles, that's not big. And so, you know, I still have the church mothers who I run into every day. They're like, look, we happy you mad, but just know you ain't grown, baby. You're not grown. And so you'll never be grown in your hometown. So it's very folksy. Everyone knows everyone. We have large populations of immigrants, waves of immigrants that have come in over the years. In the 80s, it was those who came from Jamaica and the Caribbean. In the 90s, it was a Dominican population. In the last 15 to 20 years, it's been Mexican and South American. So we're very diverse. We have about 93 nationalities which live in Mount Vernon. So while we are heavy majority minority, within that majority, we have 93 nationalities and about 15 to 20 languages that are spoken every day in our community. And I think we have more churches per square mile in Mount Vernon than any community in North America.
Well, we might give you a run for your money here in Jackson, but we're
480 churches in 4 square miles.
Oh,
we
wow.
have some blocks that have 5-6 churches. You know, some of them are storefront, you know, washboards and a tambourine and a foot drum, but they're churches.
Well, you know, as you lead a community of that size and that makeup, and it reminds me of Jackson a little bit because you're part of what I call the indigenous population. You know, people who have been there for multiple generations, and you have the tug of war between, you know, people who may have been here the last 20 or 30 years, and then you have folks who've been here for a long time, everyone feeling vested, everyone feeling important, and now you're tug of war with resources, with economy, with opportunities. How are you managing that in your city?
Well, you have said it right. So we have the indigenous population, and you know, I have families here that I go back. Our families go back 6 generations. So you know, my daughter went to school with people, and now their kids and their godparents, and I went to school with her friends' parents. My moms went to school with their parents, my grandparents. So generations. And anything being in Mount Vernon, your family being in Mount Vernon less than 50 years, you're a newcomer, you know, to the old family. So, okay, people say, I've been here 25 years, but oh, baby, you still new. So there is definitely a challenge. You know, there are people who have come and chosen to make Mount Vernon their home, and they want to make sure that they're heard. And so we have to ensure that this community is welcoming for those who are coming, because no community will grow if no one comes into your community, because some of our kids are going to grow up and move out of our community also. So we always have to have a trade. So I think we're very welcoming to new people. We're very welcoming to all of the different ethnicities and nationalities here. And we really, really do work to partner. I think we've experienced some chronic traumatic stress in our community over the last 15 years.
Let me catch this caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Hey, how y'all doing?
You're live on the air, caller. What's your question or comment?
My question or comment, I called a caller today, and I try to think outside the box. I think we as people, we need to think outside the box. And the lady said to me, you know, I'm an engineer, and I found we'll have product.
But what's your question for Mayor Howard? That's our guest on the show today.
I mean, my question and comment is, how is she going to change the game? And I'm going to hang up.
Okay. So if you, I don't know if you heard that or not, Mayor Howard, his question was, how are you going to change the game?
Oh, well, that's who I am, and that's what I do. Like I said, I'm new to this whole elected thing, so I've been a community activist and worked in the community really all my life. So how am I going to change the game? Do you want to talk about infrastructure, policing?
Because your infrastructure issues are not too different than most other communities' infrastructure issues in America. So just talk about how things you're doing in your city to move your infrastructure in a positive direction.
So, you know, Mount Vernon, like many communities that are dealing with infrastructure issues, just for us to replace our sewers, to repair our sewer system, over 100 miles of sewer system, is going to be about $125 million. To replace it is going to be $200 million. We're not kicking the can down the road. We're not ignoring the problem. I'm the one that called in the environmental justice people and asked them to come in and help us. And Catherine Flowers, when she came back on the 19th, you know, she said one of the things that really drew her to our community to discuss this issue is it's usually the residents that call up and say, we're having sewage issues, we're having wastewater issues, we're having poor water issues. Can you help us because our government is ignoring us? I'm not that person. I deal with our challenges and our problems head on. My grandmother always told me a closed mouth don't get fed. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not here to try and hide our issues. It's not about hiding our issues. We have to put our issues out there and understand that we are not unique, that there are other communities that are dealing with this problem. And I think, you know, as Black folks, we grew up with the old saying, whatever happens in our house stays in our house, and it's private. We're not supposed to share what our challenges and struggles are. And sometimes we do that in our communities. We don't want to talk about, you know, crumbling roads and failing sewer structures and bad bridges and poor water and bad transportation, because we don't want to look like the laughing stock. We don't want to look like a poor community. We don't want to look like we're always begging or always complaining. But if we don't lift up these issues, and if we don't advocate, we are not going to get the money that we need to fix these. You can't just fix this out of your city budget.
That's right.
I'm sure in Jackson, whatever your sewer or your water issues are, far exceeds, to replace it will far exceed the budget of Jackson and many other communities that are dealing with the same thing. So as you see, the president is putting out $1 trillion for infrastructure. And it's those communities that are willing to lift up the challenges that they're having that are going to be the communities that get that money. And we know as Black and brown communities, we're going to have to fight sometimes twice as hard. So we're going to have to be prepared to go after and apply for that money. Some of it might be sent to us as environmental justice communities, but discretionary funding, we're going to have to go for it. And so some of the things that we're doing, I think that are innovative and out of the box, that we are partnering with the environmental agencies like the, you know, Natural Resources Defense Council. We're partnering with Catherine Coleman Flowers and her institute. We're partnering and willing to partner now with the National Wildlife Foundation, because what's happening in our community is impacting the environment. There is an environmental impact because we have sewage going into our surrounding rivers, but at the same time, we have sewage backing up into people's homes and into businesses and into municipal buildings. And so we have to deal with them both. So if we need to partner with the environmental organizations because they're going to make noise about the fish and the environment, then we're going to partner with them. But at the same time, we're going to partner with the Divine Nine organizations and the churches and the Urban League and the NAACP and National Council of Negro Women to talk about the sewage collapse and how it's impacting our residents and our businesses and impacting our economy. And so you have to partner with people who you may not have partnered with before. You have to get together with allies that traditionally have not necessarily been interested in our communities. And those are some of the ways that we're going to change the game. We can't keep hiding our problems because it's not going to get solved that way.
Okay, let me catch this caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
It was stuff, last week I had asked you about, things that, you could do for the Black community. You told me about the rent relief program. That's federal dollars, sir. I was wondering what you can do with the state dollars down there at the Capitol on High Street.
Okay.
It's a federal program.
All right. So that program is a federal program that's been hung up for several years. And when we got into the session this year, we turned around and made that program actionable so it can be rolled out inside our community. And now we're rolling out $200 million in rental assistance, utility assistance, and those kinds of things. So it's a federal program that's been hung up in the state. And as a legislator, my job was to get it unhung so it can flow out. And we had our first community event at the Trademark Center where we helped over 1,000 people get their utilities paid for the next 16 months and their rent paid for 16 months. I think that's pretty good. But back to the show. The tenets of this show is about infrastructure and talking about, now we got several small towns that listen to our radio show on a continual basis. And you may consider yourself small, but what I would say is, what advice would you have to small town mayors and other folks in other areas about these partnerships? How have you been able to navigate these partnerships so that they can duplicate what you're doing, Mayor?
So, like you said, it's all about partnerships. And so I've reached out to the mayors in our surrounding communities who are having some similar issues. It may not be as extensive as ours, so that we can come together. Look, all small communities, we're not LA, we're not New York City, we're not Detroit, we're not Chicago. And so maybe that's why I consider myself small, because 100,000, when you're surrounded by communities with 8 million people, you feel pretty small. But we don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the infrastructure within our city government, the number of engineers and grant writers that we need to kind of deal with this large issue. And so we're partnering with the County of Westchester, which is our county, and Yonkers and New Rochelle and White Plains, and we're asking to pull our engineers together and go out for what we call requests for proposals. So we, as a county, can pull together a consortium, a group of people to hire some engineers and not just look at the sewage and the wastewater issues in our community, but the surrounding communities, because after a while they all start to connect. And if our city is backed up and collapsing, it's going to eventually impact the next city. So we're not big enough to handle this on our own. So partnering with our surrounding communities and really, really bringing them to the table and helping them to understand why it's better for us to do this together than trying to tackle it alone has been very important. And we don't think about these issues. We don't think about infrastructure issues until they fall apart.
That's
because
right.
sewage is under the ground. So no one's worrying about sewage issues until you can't flush your toilet, or sewage is backing up in your house, or your septic tank doesn't work and there's all type of problems, or you're getting brown water out of your faucet. This is when we start thinking about these type of infrastructure problems. And so I'm a Delta, I'm part of Divine Nine. I'm a Delta Sigma Theta proudly, right? And so, we've been working more and more with the fraternities and sororities. We've been educating the churches, working with the neighborhood associations, working with civic groups and the businesses, because issues of this magnitude, the government can't do by itself. The community can't do by itself. So we have to bring every sector of the community together. And there's a lot of education. We're telling people, disposable wipes are not disposable, so please don't throw them in the toilets. I mean, these things, that basic education, because while our infrastructure is crumbling, we can give it a little extra life when we educate. Oftentimes we just want to enforce, but we don't educate, and people will come along more if they understand their role in maintaining the infrastructure until we can replace it. And so we're doing a lot of education in our community. And I use a term.
The reason why grandmama used to pour that grease into that pot on the stove or that can on the stove versus pouring it down the drain.
That's right.
Caller, I know you only had 30 minutes in your schedule. Hello, caller. What's your question from Mayor Shawyn Patterson Howard?
Thank you so much for taking my call. Mr. Mayor Shawyn out of New York. Thank you so much for speaking to this listening audience of WNPR in Jackson. I just have to send him to the defense of our own mayor here, Chipway Anton and Mumble. He is doing exactly what the things you're saying. He's trying so hard, and he gets ridiculed and he gets criticized by our community, our own constituents here. And I'm just so glad you're saying what you're saying, because he's doing it. I like the person who's doing it, but they like what's being done. And he's been bashed. Those federal dollars are here, so Jackson's gonna get fixed just like this did it. But I'm gonna finish with that and say, free the land.
All right, we appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. And so, Mayor Lumumba, I really appreciate him. He's someone who I look at and I mark some of what he's doing. We've been in some programs with the United States Conference of Mayors and Harvard University, the Mayor's Institute for City Design, Just Cities. And that was talking about how to bring equity to our communities, how to build that dignity economy, how to make sure that we're getting our infrastructure addressed, ensuring that broadband is being brought to our communities for connectivity, talking about economic development, talking about ensuring that development that we do in the community supports all parts of our community. We know there's been a lot of divestment or in our neighborhoods. And so trust me, I know he is working hard and he is doing innovative things and looking for solutions. And many of us are looking at him. I think an article came out just a few days ago saying that he's one of the 10 mayors in the nation to watch. Because he's working triple time. He's on the habit trail, running fast, and doing everything locally and reaching out to those state and federal partners to bring those resources home. One of the challenges, by the time we as Black mayors get an opportunity to lead cities, oftentimes the resources have been shifted in other places. The infrastructure is broken down. The people are stressed out and tired and feeling taken advantage of. And then when we come in, they want us to have a magic wand and make it happen overnight. And it's interesting because our people will give us as leaders much more heat than they ever brought to people who don't look like us. And we can do 9 out of 10 things and get criticized.
Before you get out the line, Mayor. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
And I've been just listening about federal dollars, but I'm hearing a lot of my people, and y'all been giving all the money and unemployment and everything. Are y'all helping these people about to lose their home for taxes in August? Because I hear a lot of them, they stressed out. And I mean, unfortunately, I've been blessed. But I do see a lot of people that's going to lose their property during this pandemic. Is that help for them or?
Okay. Let me hang up. We're going to get finished with the interview with Mayor Howard, and then I'm going to address your question. Okay. Thanks a lot, dear.
Well, but Representative Stamps, just to reference what the caller said, this is happening all around the country. And yes, money is coming down for the federal government to the states, but that's one of the challenges. It's coming to the states. And we've been advocating for it to come really to the cities, because then it kind of unhooks it and allows us to push this money out to those who need it most quickest. And so there's definitely some things in the system that have to be fixed so that the money can flow much more directly with low barriers to accessing it to the people in the communities who need it most. But this is not unique. And that's the challenge, you know, in our communities. We feel like we're the only community impacted, you know, Jacksonville, Jackson, Mississippi, Atlanta, Mount Vernon. And when you're living in a community, we're very hyper-focused on our communities, as we should be. But oftentimes we're feeling like no one's going through what we're going through, and we all are going through it. We're all asking the same questions. And we as leaders are asking the same questions that our residents are. We, you know, I don't think sometimes that our constituents understand the amount of work that we're doing behind the scenes and the arguments that we're having and how hard we're advocating and sometimes making enemies on behalf of our community to make sure that the resources that we know that they need get to them and get to them when they need it. So I just kind of wanted to say that because I know you're getting all of those questions. And this Saturday at our local library, we are doing a fair to deal with the emergency rental assistance programs and utility disconnections and all of that too. And this is the hard thing. We put the information out there, but the information is only as good as people who are willing to take advantage of the information. So we can't help you if you don't show up. We don't have the resources to knock on your door and say, are you going to be evicted? Are you losing your house? Well, we have this available. We have the information, but we need people to come and apply for it so that we can assist you in getting the resources that you need. I'm sorry, I just.
You're fine. You do. Hey, we had one of those events last weekend, and little advice. We had to partner with several agencies. We partnered with our public utility staff. We had the utility companies there. That took a little arm twisting to get the utility companies on site, our water department on site. And hats off to Ms. Sally Doty, who's our public utilities administrator, for helping put that together. And the best thing I can tell you to do is get started as early as you can. Tell the folks to bring the appropriate information, because filling the applications out was one of our challenges. Having to go back and forth because people didn't have the appropriate documentation or filled the information out wrong. And then you have to go back and forth. So I would just say to you, get as much time as you can to have the folks come and promote it as best you can so you get maximum participation.
Yes.
And just work through it, because it's a great program. That program was hung up in our state for a while. And I just say hats off to our legislative delegation who worked the issues out and start moving that program out so that we can get it to the people who need it the most.
Absolutely.
It sounds like that's what you're doing in Mount Vernon. So my advice to you, promote it as much as you can, because when that day is over, it'll always be people who come behind and say, I didn't hear about it. I didn't know about it. Will you do it again? And I think we got till September to get those things done.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so we're doing Facebook Lives where we have a program called Financial Navigators, where we have a phone number that they can call, and it's kind of like the 211 hotline. So if people know that this is the number you call if you need to get information on food, housing, utilities, rent and eviction prevention, anything financially impacted by COVID that puts your family in a tough spot, call this number and they'll be kind of like your GPS and direct you to where you need to go. And we're partnering with the churches, with the neighborhood associations, with the civic organizations, the Masons, the Eastern Stars, whoever we have to partner with, really on that ground level to get the information out. We're probation and parole, the Department of Social Services, whoever and the courts. So we got a list of everyone in the courts who is up for eviction or who has cases against them now. And we did a mass mailing out to all of those families so that they could know to come to the fair or how they could get assistance. But I'm sorry, because I know we're supposed to be talking about infrastructure and wastewater.
But these conversations are good because sometimes folks in your community and our community, you start looking at things like you're the only one, but to know that other people are dealing with them and the same communications hadn't happened before. in previous generations, they were just in silos where Jackson was here and Mount Vernon was there and everybody was in their own silo. But now that we have all these different mechanisms to communicate and we can take notes from each other and say, well, what did you do and what did you do? That allows everyone to do things better and be more effective in how we do things.
Absolutely. So, like I said, with the infrastructure, speaking to Miss Flowers, who came from Lowndes County down there in Alabama, and her coming up here to New York, and she's talking about Centerville, Illinois, and places all over the country that are dealing with, bad water, lead in the water, sewage backups, sewage runoffs into the surrounding environment, flooding, and we're going to see this get worse because of climate change, and that is real, regardless of whether or not people want to talk about it. But we're seeing extreme weather incidents happening. We're seeing, winter storms happening in Texas and tearing out their electrical grid. So these are real issues right now that we're dealing with. And as environmental justice communities, communities that have been negatively impacted, over the years by structural racism and lack of investment in our communities, we have to fight. We have to fight right now, and we have to be very clear about what our community needs. Because if we miss out on these federal dollars right now, it's going to be really hard for so many of our communities, which are already far behind, to recover.
That's right. And we have to keep working, because we got folks out here who are in pain. We got folks out here who need help. And I didn't silence my own phone. We got folks out here who need help, and we definitely appreciate you for coming on. So the work you're doing with the African American Mayors Association, again, congratulations on becoming second vice president. So in about 3 years, you'll be doing it, right?
I think 2023. Yes, 2023. I mean, right now our president is Mayor Sylvester Turner, outside of Houston, Texas, and he's doing a great job. Like I said, we're getting ready for the United States Conference of Mayors Conference, and I know he is on the climate control. He's one of the climate mayors. The African American Mayors Association is dealing with everything from, internet connectivity and broadband access. We're dealing with social justice. We're working with our business council to ensure that the corporations are doing job training and investing in skilling and reskilling people for this new economy that we're dealing with. So we are focusing on the issues that are most important to the communities that we are representing. And, everything from housing to economic development to infrastructure to climate to police reform. Those are the things that we are really, really focusing on, and involving ourselves in our local communities, and really lifting up our national voice, and really partnering, like I said, with all types of historic organizations, as well as organizations that are forming now because of the challenges that we have at hand. So it's a good organization, and we if you go to ourmayors.org, that's our page. You can learn more about the organization. But as we stated with Ms. Lightfoot, we're just really excited to be doing some things with the National Wildlife Federation as well, because people just usually think about that as the animals, but we are all in this environment. We're living in an ecosystem, and what impacts the animals impacts us as humans, and impacts us as humans as well. And so we have to take more looks at the environment. And I know, if I can kind of just say this, because I don't know how to fluff things up too much, as people of color, we like, I have 99 problems and the environment is not one of them. That's traditionally been our attitude. We're trying to feed our babies. We're trying to be safe in certain neighborhoods. We're trying to keep food on the table and things of that nature. And so the environment has not always been our biggest issue. But it's the negative changes in the environment that end up coming to impact our communities the most. the most. And so we do have to pay attention to the environment. We do have to make sure that we are, investing in electric charging stations, that we're, replacing our fleets of cars and trucks in our community and our municipalities with clean, energy efficient vehicles. We have to reduce the carbon footprint. And we've heard that for so long, but we've never talked about it. But that's why we have such high rates of asthma and COPD and respiratory issues in our community. All of that is affected by the environment. All of that is affected also by the infrastructures in our community. And so these are issues that we traditionally haven't paid attention to because we were dealing with policing and poverty and bad schools and, how many ways can you split your attention? But we are learning now more and more as leaders of color that we have to also sit at this table where we're talking about environment and climate control and environmental justice, because it impacts our communities greater than it does those communities, those wealthy communities, and those are the ones who are usually sitting at the table having that conversation.
Well, Mayor, we appreciate you for coming on and telling a little bit about your story and about your city's journey and where you are. And I'm just glad to know that we got partners around the country we can reach out to and just share information with. So I appreciate you, Mayor, for coming on. And anytime you want to come back on, anything you want to bring back to us here in Mississippi, we appreciate you, and you're always welcome.
Thank you for having me. Best of luck in any way I can support. Please let me know.
Yes, ma'am. God bless and Godspeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Miss Mayor Shawyn Howard from Mount Vernon, New York. Now we're going to catch some of these callers here. Let's see what we got here. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, how y'all doing?
Hey, brother.
All right, I'm enjoying your show, but why and when I'm an old man. I'm too old to do anything about it. But why can't some of our young folks join together, put their money together, and let's get something, some stores, some nice restaurants, some gas stations in the city of Jackson. This everything you're saying is good, but to my belief, we need to go back to and copy after the Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Mount Value, Mississippi. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Before you hang up, you made a great point. And that's why we always try to partner with folks who want to do good work. We try to promote businesses, and anybody who wants to start a business, everybody knows I'm a strong proponent of working together, a strong proponent of putting your monies together and supporting each other. When you see somebody, going out on a limb, taking a risk, go out and support them. So when I go out there, I make sure that I spend, a large portion of money I spend in businesses that I know that need those resources the most. Let me catch this next caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment? Turn your radio down, caller.
Yes, sir. Why are you on this 1,000-watt radio station lying to me, folks?
Man, please. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Hey, DeKeither.
Yeah.
As a building engineer, what I want to do is offer my services to my nephew, Antoine, because, I'm looking at the roster and some things that a lot of people don't know. So I'm following up on some things that you do know. And, I think I might be a year or two older than you.
Yes, sir.
But that when me and you go to sleep at night, you're a man of compassion. You're a man of heart. And, when we offer services to the city, we have a godly mind or a carnal mind. I'm not a carnal mind person because I'm rich. But people won't think I'm rich because they see my old house. They think, I'm not a material person. And I learned a long time ago, I met this old rich black man. And you look at him, you didn't think he was rich, but he had way more money than me and over the cancer had.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed my thinking. So here we are today, and I look at my nephew Antoine, and I look at what he's up against, and I look at you, and I look at upon the horizon, and I'm a soldier, fighting in the army of the Lord. You know, I'm a military man, but then I look at what I've been through, and people just say it's not where you're going, it's where you've been. So now we want to offer services to our people because we have so much compassion and love for our people. But there are those within us or within our community, which I, talked to the previous man, his father, and I've seen the hypocrisy that was formed before him, and the people received millions of dollars. So I know what I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're dealing with. We cannot be afraid of what we're doing. And I don't want to call nobody out. But what I want to do is live by the truth. That's the truth.
Well, we appreciate you for always calling in and being attentive and offering your talents and skills up. If you hang on, I'm gonna respond to what you said in the last 10 minutes of the show. Okay, brother? Hello? You still there? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and respond to what the brother's saying in this way here. And I know a lot of folks, I've gotten phone calls all day long about leadership and this and that and just different issues. What I'll say is everybody must do better. Everybody. We must do better and do things adequately and appropriately. That's what I'll say. I got out to council almost a month ago. July the 1st was my last day, or my first day off the city council in 8 years. And I realized then how much I put into that space, because you don't really calculate how much time and energy you put into something until it's gone, until it's over. And I realized, that I needed to take a moment to step back and take care of me. I had to lose a little weight, had to get my mind together, get my body together, and get my spirit together, because all of us are made up of a mind, a body, and a spirit. And I think that you should only speak when you are whole in one of those areas. Like if my body's not right, how can I go tell you to be healthy? Right? If I'm sitting here unhealthy, right? If my mind ain't right, I can't tell you to act like you got some common sense. If my mind not right. If my spirit not right, I'm probably going to evoke the devil in you. So I say to everyone, take a moment to reflect on yourself and check your mind, your body, and your spirit. And if your mind, body, and spirit aren't right, maybe you need to step back away from the table and realign yourself so that you can serve adequately. And that goes for everybody, me included. This last month has been one of the most refreshing months since I've been in public service. Because when we're out of session in the legislature, it's a lot of homework, it's a lot of preparation that you do, in preparation for the next session, because the state got just as many issues as a small community. And my message to folks about different things is that everybody take a step back, get yourselves together, because unity is what we need to get the public confidence in order so that we can govern and lead effectively. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
How you doing, Representative Stamps?
Hey, what's going on, sir?
This is Malcolm Johnson. I'm enjoying your dialogue. I think what you're saying is exactly right. We first must examine ourselves. When we take Holy Communion in the church, before we eat the bread and drink the wine, we first supposed to examine ourselves. Am I right?
That's right.
And what you're saying is absolutely true. And it's real bad. And I want to say this to you and the people on the radio, man. it's real bad when people that don't have nothing to do with the situation get drugged into something. So if we would do better and examine ourselves and keep ourselves in line, hold ourselves accountable, and, as well as do what's right, then a lot of these things will escalate. But you're exactly right, Brother Sampson. You have my 101% of me supporting your dialogue, what you're speaking about. Everybody must be accountable for their own actions, and everybody that's doing something in leadership that is not of leadership should stand down, stand back, and take personal difference to the side and allow the show of everything else to move forward. You know what I'm saying, right?
Oh, that's right. Thanks a lot, Malcolm. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So I'm agreeing with your dialogue, brother. Have a good day. Good
All right.
day, sir. Yeah. Keep doing a good job, brother.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of everybody should be to lift everybody up. Like, y'all don't hear me on the radio or anywhere talking bad about anybody. Now, I give somebody the business, and folks know I will get them the business behind closed doors. And sometimes this is loud enough where they hear through the wall. Them folks in Jackson City Hall will tell you that I'll shake the walls sometimes. But we got to do business in such a way that evokes a higher degree of public confidence, because, see, everything we do in government is based off of public confidence. And if you don't have that public confidence, you become ineffective in delivering good things. I mean, things that we agree on can't take root unless you have public confidence. Hello, call. You last call of the day. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I'm just trying to say, speaking of the board of supervisors, every time you find somebody trying to speak out and expose this wrongdoing, like David Arthur, he's a good person, and he's trying to expose a lot of this back and under the table dealers and everything, and they want to try to rid him of that vice president position.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Let me catch this one last call before we get off there. All right. Oh, they hung up. Call back, call. But let me just finish the show off by saying this. We must inspire people to be better. Each one of us, our homes can be better. Our neighborhoods can be better. We can do better, all of us. And this is me included. Right? It's not me excluding myself from the charge of being better. That's why I say I don't get bogged down in a bunch of the he said, she said, the back and forth, because at the end of the day, none of that conversation paves the street. None of that conversation fixes the sewer drain. Stay focused on the issues of our community. Don't get bogged down inside the person. Let's call a call back. Hello, call. You called back. You're the last call of the show. Turn your radio down, caller.
And
right.
I'm going to you stamps.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
Because is right, because when you put all the business in a governor, the people have the power over the government, but government is supposed to be the rule of the harassment. And if you put there, y'all should settle it around the table or come to agree with it with the Most High, and not to just throw trash out in the street and make it more, a lot of confusion. And he say, because we don't need that, we need the job done. And everybody do their job. And another thing too about when they said Black Donalds and with our community and the business, McDonald's is by Burger Kings and Wendy's. Why can't a Black Chamber of Commerce come into these neighborhoods and get these black dollars that these Indians and Iranians are making and not putting back into the neighborhood, taking it somewhere else? So if they want a Chamber of Commerce and help, get a commerce and open some stores next to these Indians that are taking the money out of the community, and black men come in here and make this money.
I appreciate it, man. We're about to get off there. We get about 3 minutes left to go on the show. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate you, dear. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we must inspire each other to do better. That's the whole message today. to do better and be better. Sister, you got a comment you want to make?
I had a question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I was just thinking about what the mayor was saying earlier from New York, and I was listening to the callers. So, and I was just listening to that caller. So, almost like partnerships. Can the city partner within each other? Can we have like a networking system where our businesses will grow? You know, where maybe it's some kind of database. It's not planned out, but somewhere everybody has a game to lift each other, almost on old school level of doing things, but in a newer way.
Yeah, I mean, we have those sessions where we partner with folks. Many of the folks that Mayor Howard spoke about, we're already in partnerships with. And so, but it takes, in government, it takes two things to really move the needle when it comes to getting resources for your community and getting things done. First is relationships. And the second one is trust. With relationships and trust, you can move forward. And as leaders, we must do everything we can do to build effective relationships and create an environment of trust so that we can first have proper relationships with the folks that put us here, but also it takes good relationships and trust to be given resources to fix the needs of your communities. And so those are the two things that we must work on, be better as we move forward. So ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, well, first off, we finish up with our sponsors. We want to thank Mr. Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan Transportation Service for always been a great friend. You can go to www.mjstransportation1.com for your transportation needs, and the National Wildlife Federation, who is partnering with us to help us introduce ourselves and other people to other relationships that help us move these issues forward when it comes to our environment and when it comes to our infrastructure issues. All this is the design to build relationships outside of your city so that you can look at what best practices are happening around the country and you can duplicate them in your hometown. So then you won't just be spinning your wheels. And that's what those relationships are all about. And as we always say, everybody know, I answer as many calls as I can. I try not to make it so that you disturb the flow of the guests that we have, because right now we're starting to be asked by people from around the country to come on this show. And y'all remember this show started out 8 years ago, and just trying to help the community. And the reach of it has grown, and people have participated with us from all over. And now we're starting to get people from around the country who are asking to be on Reviving Mississippi, who are asking to participate. So this conversation has grown over the last 8 years, and I'm thankful to WMPR for allowing us this opportunity, because I didn't know that this show was going to grow to this degree and beyond. So I'm just thankful and gracious for Mayor Howard from Mount Vernon, New York, for asking to be a part of all this and what we're doing, and the conversation we're having are definitely helping people, not just here locally, but around the country move forward. So that's why I don't answer every call, because if my guest is trying to get their word out or trying to finish something that they're saying, they took time out of their schedule to come on. But I do answer as many as possible, if we agree or not. But I'm not going to let you come on there and tell no lie about anything we're doing, me included. So that's not going to happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say at the end of every show, is never let anybody put you in a position where you don't love your own people. Because when you hate your own folks, you're part of the very oppression we're trying to lift ourselves out of. I love you, Jackson. I love you, Mississippi. Take us out of here, man.